Well, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Joint podcast with myself, Al Rattan, and Chris Baker. And we are on the Raise Your Bars podcast this evening. And it's been a couple of weeks because we've both been busy and had stuff going on. And it feels like, it feels like too long since we recorded our last
It
episode,
does.
Chris.
Yeah, it does. But sometimes life happens like that, Al.
Absolutely.
Hopefully people have sat on the edge of their seats waiting for the next episode, and we're going to blow their socks off with this episode. So,
Yes, absolutely. We are. Hopefully, we'll blow the socks off with every episode. And today we want to talk to you about expectations. Now, this is something that, it's important to set expectations and realistic ones with your team. It's important to set expectations with yourself. And I just want to start off by reading this quote, Chris. It says, expectations are the seeds we plant in the soil of possibility. How we nurture them determines the fruits we harvest.
that's good. That's good. And it's so true, right? Because it's easy to set an expectation and go a bit like goal setting, right? It's easy to set it and go, there you go, I've got my goal, I've got my expectations. Let's just see what happens. Right. And we wait and we don't actually do anything, right? And this is again the whole premise of bars, really, is the behaviors and the actions that will lead to the results and the success. So we may expect results and success, but if we don't do the behaviors and actions that are going to get us there, like in your quote, if we don't nurture those seeds, that seed of expectation, we're not going to get the results.
Absolutely. And I think if we aren't setting or aren't clear enough with the expectations, it's really going to set you up for disappointment in life, even in your business or in your personal life. Unrealistic expectations or unmet expectations are a cause of a lot of disappointment and hurt and pain and suffering for people.
Yeah, it is. And you can, there's two ways you can fail with this as well, or trip up with this. Is one is if you set expectations too high and then you don't have a plan of how you're going to get there,
right?
And so you get demoralized and basically you give up, thinking that it's you or it's circumstances, is whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And the other one is if you set your expectations too low and you reach them and you think you've cracked it and everything's good, right? But you're actually not moving forward. So really the trick is finding the ground in between, right?
Exactly. And that's right. And I just wanted to read this quick thing here. It says, and tying it in with our bars, our behaviors and actions, that expectations can influence the behavior and performance of not only ourselves and others. And when we communicate the expectations clearly, and I think it's important adding the word respectfully even in there, right? So we are going to set that standard of expectation of how we expect to be treated, how we expect to treat others, what are the expectations that you have in your organizations for how you're going to treat your clients.
Exactly.
I did a workshop with a local company here today, and we talked a lot about, and we've talked about it on the podcast before, and Jeff Henderson's book, Know What You're For, which is excellent. If you haven't read it, go get it and read it. You're welcome, Jeff. That, as a company, what are we known for? Yeah. And it was I think it was good. I think the company has a really I think they're really good. They have understanding who they are and who they want to be. But I think, like with most companies, we all have a little bit of work to do in really, nailing that down and then communicating it effectively to the team, so they make sure that they're living out what you want to be known for every day when they're dealing with their customers. And that comes to setting the proper expectations, because if you don't set the expectation, what are we going to do? If I don't have an expectation that I'm going to show up at this time on Wednesday evening and record our podcast, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be sitting there disappointed and let down because I'm sitting on my couch watching TV.
Yeah.
The expectation is there. And if we don't set the expectation, how do we expect anybody to live up to the expectation?
Exactly. Without expectations, there's no accountability, right? And you can't, I think too often business leaders, business owners will try and hold people accountable for poor results when they haven't clearly set the expectations and there's not an understanding. So clarity and understanding is a huge, probably the first element of setting expectations, because these clear expectations will eliminate any ambiguity and ensure that everyone involved understands what is expected of them,
Right.
and then they're going to be held accountable, right? That if they don't meet them. And the problem when expectations are vague or open to interpretation, what happens is misunderstandings arise.
And then
Right?
how can you hold anybody accountable to their actions?
Correct. Yeah.
You can't.
And we
It
know
would
when,
be unfair to the team if
yeah,
you went back to them if they didn't achieve your
yeah,
thought of what it should be, because you didn't clearly articulate what you wanted
yeah.
them to do.
Yeah, and we taught, we've been teaching a lesson on conflict resolution recently, right? And misunderstandings is really the cause of most conflicts, and nobody really wants conflicts. Nobody likes conflicts, or very few people like conflicts, right? So if you can be clear and understanding in the expectations, then it's got to be a bonus.
Absolutely. So I want to, this is an interesting thought here too, that, how about this: expectations influence our mindset and our attitude. When we hold positive expectations, we approach the situation with optimism and belief in our abilities. This positive mindset can lead to increased confidence and resilience in facing challenges. On the other hand, negative expectations can limit our potential and actually create self-doubt. We start doubting our own abilities or skill set. So really it's essential as leaders, as people that are interested in personal growth and development, as people that want to grow our teams and our organizations, we really need to cultivate this positive and realistic expectations, and really that are going to inspire our teams to grow and have belief in their skills and their abilities.
Yeah, it's 100% true, and it's again, I've taught recently and taught on anxiety and excitement, and say some people will be in the same situation. Some people will be anxious, some people will be excited. The actual emotion is the same. It's the mindset that makes it different. Right? And that's the same thing as what you're talking about here with expectations, right? If you that Henry Ford quote that I love, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're usually right.
Right.
And so having that clear expectations that everybody buys into and understands and is lived throughout the organization. And we're talking it from a business point of view here. It could be your family, your relationship, whatever it is. It applies exactly the same. Church, everything. If everybody understands it and they believe in it and they're working towards it, it will happen. Right? And then that positivity will help lift people up, because again, we've talked about it in the past that when you're moving towards something large, that a little bit scary, that big, scary, audacious goal, things will go wrong. Right. But if everybody has got that positive belief that the expectations will be lived out, if something goes wrong for someone, the rest will bring them up.
Yeah, exactly. That's the power of team.
Exactly. And it can work the other way too, right? If you've got negative expectations and something goes wrong, they go, yep, I told you, let's all stop and go and do something else. So yeah.
No, that's really good. And I think that there's just a couple of I think I'll throw out a couple of points here, Chris, and we can discuss this around this, but just some points to ensuring that we have the expectations, especially in the team environment. So it can be, everybody can have a productive and harmonious environment. And one of those expectations is clearly defining the goals and the objectives.
Yep.
And if we aren't, and again, us as leaders, and I think it's important that I've worked for people in the past that have sort of come into meetings all willy-nilly, no real plan of action, nothing really written down and outlined. And I know when I've conducted team meetings, I want to make sure that I have everything I want to talk about written, because I don't want to forget. I don't want to look like an idiot. And I want to make sure I'm clearly articulating it especially when it comes down to how we are going to act or react and interact with each other, our clientele, so on and so forth, right? That we have to set that expectation. Another part that we could do too is involve the team in actually helping us set some of these expectations. So how would you interpret that? What would you do with your team to help you set the expectations?
Well, I think one of the things that we that we both agree on, and that we both do and promote, is actually creating a team charter, right? And we have a team charter right under the bars. We've got that format set up there. And I think it begins as well with the values, and so that values exercise that we do. So
right,
you need people to be aligned with who you are, and again, go back to the Jeff Henderson, like, what are you for? Right? You need people to be aligned with that and to believe in that. And so helping the team work through what they believe the values are, right? What they believe the company stands for, or their department stands for, and are they all aligned with that? Having them come up with ideas that will, because at the end of the day, the team are the ones that do the job every day, right? Not the leaders.
Exactly.
So we should be the ones that are listening to them, not them listening to us. And
if we do that, we're getting buy-in from them, and they're going to go out and execute it.
Exactly. They'll take ownership and responsibility. And when they do that, they're going to have pride and satisfaction in doing a good job. So guess what? The results are going to be better. Exactly. And ultimately, that's going to pass along to your customers. Well, whoever your customers are, they'll get that experience, and their expectations will be raised because you're delivering that service. And then your employees will be more engaged because you're listening to them. And guess what? The business results will go up. So again, it all comes back to those behaviors and actions.
Yeah.
What do we believe in, and what are we going to do?
Yeah. And it really is incredible to see. And again, we've been in the personal development space now for a number of years together, plus running successful businesses in the past for other people. And I know I've seen throughout my career in businesses that I've worked in and worked for, and training and development, I know you've seen the same thing about how many businesses are missing this. Like they think that, okay, I'm going to come in, I'm going to, for an example, it's a retail store. I'm going to come in, I'm going to unlock the doors, my team's going to show up, do what they need to do. At the end of the day, I'm going to make some money. Yeah. And really, their whole goal is focused is on, I need to sell more stuff. I just need to sell more stuff. I'm not selling enough stuff. I need to sell more stuff. And that becomes their all-consuming, desire, when really that's not necessarily the desire they should be looking for. They just need to look at fostering their team, growing their team, developing their team, developing themselves, setting the expectations, putting those training programs in place, whatever you need to do. And then you're right. Go back to, what do you want to be known for? Be known for somebody that's going to impact, your team and your clients and your community in a positive way. And I believe the business will come.
It will.
But we get wrapped up in I just need to sell more stuff. And then that takes the focus off of, it's almost like a desperation or a scarcity mindset comes into play.
It's either sell more stuff or cut costs, right?
Yeah.
And that's the two things that businesses generally look at. And you've seen it recently with, post-COVID, right? Where people are trying to cut costs. They're trying to do more with less people. And the problem is that while, yes, on the face of it, you're saving money now, but how much money are you letting walk out the door? Right. And we're saying that metaphorically. It doesn't matter what business you're in.
No.
What you've got to understand is that if you do the right thing for the right reasons, your customers will come. All right. It's like the Kevin Costner film, I think it was, The Field of Dreams. Build the field and the people will come, sort of thing.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah. Do it for the right reasons. Get the people around you that want to do it for those same reasons, and think about, what are you for, not the result. Zig Ziglar says, like, give everybody what they want, or enough people what they want, and you'll get everything you want.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So be that customer focused business, be customer driven, look after them, nurture them, because they are gold.
Yes.
And if you let that gold go through your fingers and walk out of the door, you're probably not going to get them back. Or if you do, the only way you'll get them back is with loss leader bargain offers that are
Right.
really going to end up losing you money anyway.
Yeah.
We've seen it with, we talked recently about Bed Bath and Beyond, and then what was the other one that went out of business this last week? Major company. I can't remember now. I've forgotten it, but it was a pretty major company that had said, well, we'll try and keep going, but they basically couldn't do it.
Right.
There's too many. They're trying to chase the budget market, and they're missing the point.
Yeah.
Missing the point.
Yeah. And I think that it comes down to, again, I know we got a little bit off topic on expectations, but I think it all comes back around to that. By, again, what are the expectations that we have? What standard are we going to hold ourselves to in order to make sure that we are doing the right thing in our community with our team and so on and so forth? And again, I worked for big box retail stores way back in the past. And it was so funny because you would go through this endless loop cycle where, oh my goodness, sales are down. District manager would call the store manager, say your sales are down. You need to cut your wage costs. They'd reduce everybody's hours. So people were working less hours, so we'd have less coverage on the floor and less cashiers. And then the sales would come down a little bit more because people hated waiting in lineups. So therefore they would cut the hours more again.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh my goodness, we've cut the hours too low. We can't operate a store this much. Let's raise the hours again. And then they'd start getting sales again because people were happy. But then they go, oh, now we're spending too much money on wage dollars. We got to lower it again. And we go through this cycle of insanity over and over again.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you should, let's be honest, folks. If sales are dipping, you do need to watch your costs. You need to watch your bottom line, your expenses. But at the end of the day, like what Chris said earlier, if you do the right thing for the right reasons, then the money will come.
Yeah, I don't even think that's off topic of expectations, Al. To be honest, I think it's excuse me. Why are you doing it? That is the expectations you're setting with your employees, but also with your customers. Jenny Craig is the company I was thinking about.
Oh,
Jenny
right,
Craig,
they've been around for decades.
Yeah, 40 years, I think, and they eventually decided that that's it. We're gonna go bankrupt. Well, why are you doing what you're doing, and what do you want your employees to do? What do you want your customers to experience? That is expectations. Right.
Yeah.
So setting your stall out to deliver in a way that you expect, everybody needs to understand it and perform at that level and produce those. And if you do, you'll be successful.
Absolutely. And I think there's a couple of things here that we really need to do with these expectations is once you set them, you need to hold people accountable to them.
Yeah.
They need to be held accountable. And you know what? As a leader, you need to lead by example, by showing them the level of professionalism, care, concern, empathy, whatever it may be, whatever is needed in your business at this moment. You need to lead by example by showing it.
Right.
Show them that this is the expectations. This is the bar that that we're setting.
Yeah.
And we should be aiming higher than that bar.
Yeah.
And, when it comes down to it, and I'll say again, what behaviors and actions you need to change in your business, your organization to get the results and success you desire. Only you can decide that. And if you're stuck, Chris and I can help.
Yeah. Because as a leader, people, your people will follow what you do, not what you say.
Exactly.
All right. So make sure that the two are aligned.
Yeah.
And be prepared to do everything you're asking them to do and follow through, and be prepared to be accountable yourself. Right. If you set expectations and you don't meet them, own up, let's do something about it. Right.
100%.
But encourage that culture. And again, we talk on culture, and culture all comes into expectations, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And again, as Al said, if you want help with this, we can help you with a team charter. We can help you with a profit acceleration software that will give you an assessment that will help you do all of this. It's not
Mhm.
why we're doing this podcast. We're just saying, if you want help, again, we'll set the expectations. We can help you. You're
Absolutely.
right.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
But don't just sit back and wait for things to happen.
No.
Because if you do that, things will happen, but it's not what you want to happen.
Especially in today's economy,
Right.
you need to be aggressive. You need to
Right.
set yourself apart. You need to separate yourself from the crowd,
Yep.
and you can succeed
Yep.
in this economy.
Yeah. And if you're not a business owner, if you're an employee, whatever that is watching this or listening to this, sorry, the same applies to you.
Absolutely.
Right. I was listening to an executive yesterday who was having a conversation with an executive at Disney, and his advice was bloom where you are planted.
Mm-hmm.
And what he was saying with that was that if you want to get on in life, all right, don't go and tell people that when I get this promotion, I'm going to work really hard. Or when I get this promotion, you'll see that I'm worthwhile. Or when I become a leader, I'll start acting like a leader. No, bloom where you're planted, excel in what you're doing now,
Mm-hmm.
you will get noticed, and then you'll get moved on. All
I'll
right.
tell you, I've never promoted anybody for saying someday I will.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this applies business, it applies personal, it applies with your family, everything. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Bars transcends all
All
areas.
areas of your
It
life.
really does.
Yeah.
And so, go out and make a difference. And your challenge for this week is really like, set your expectations. What do you expect of yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you lead a team, what do you expect of your team? And then make sure that you communicate that.
And
Right. And if
follow
it's for
through.
yourself, communicate it with your spouse, your partner, your kids, whatever, so they know, and then you're accountable.
Exactly.
Right. If you're setting it for your team, communicate with your team, but involve them and ask them, what do they think? What do they expect? What do they expect of you?
Exactly. Yeah, it goes both ways in a team environment. Absolutely. That's a great challenge. Everybody, thanks for tuning in to the Raise Your Bars podcast. I'm Al Rattan with my good friend Chris Baker. And if you got some value from this, please seek us out on social media, share it with your friends, family, coworkers. We are grateful for you.
Yes,
Thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.